Cowboys are one of the most iconic images of the American West. We have Hollywood to thank for that. But out here on the ranches in Eastern Oregon, things looked quite a bit different.
For one, there were Chinese cowboys.
Have something here, a buckle or a button or a bullet.
The Southern Oregon University Field School is digging into a historic Grant County ranch, uncovering artifacts and clues about the real cowboys and ranch hands of the early 20th century.
Somebody please find me a spur.
Although largely absent from the history books, Chinese immigrants were a huge economic driver in Eastern Oregon. During the mining heyday, over 40% of Grant County's population was of Chinese descent.
Looking for Chinese cowboys, we know it's going to be so tricky because it's not going to be the same as a Chinatown site.
So this site is interesting because not only do we have records of a Chinese cowboy, but also the Chinese cook.
What we want to get at is what was life like on this ranch.
I'm just imagining myself, if I were Buckaroo Sam or some of the other ranch hands, they would be looking at the same hills.
Dale created a comic about Buckaroo Sam, a Chinese cowboy working on the ranches in Eastern Oregon.
You gave him a face, you gave him a story, you gave him a life in your comic that he was lacking in these spotty historical records. So much of the way that we see Chinese Americans in the documentary record are through the legislation and through racist newspaper accounts. You can't tell the story of somebody's life through what they were not allowed to do.
There was only one image that I could find of Buckaroo Sam in his later years. So I had to reimagine him as a younger man. I kind of borrowed from some of my own history, having what we called uncles and elders, hearing these uncles talking back and forth, teasing each other, using Chinese terminology and slang. It's a very warm feeling for me to be able to stand here and just kind of look around and imagine myself as one of these Chinese pioneers of the Western frontier.
We've got snaps and eyelets and grommets and ceramic, glass,
Cut nails, wire nails, bottle caps. Not only are we seeing what they're eating, but we're seeing the material that they are using daily throughout their lives.
Our search for Chinese cowboys continues, but evidence of workwear and shared meals firmly place them in this Western scene.
The image of the American West and what a cowboy was, it's pretty strong in Western American culture. And the more we can find out, the greater it expands what it means to be an American and be American cowboy.
Okay, let's find more.
Okay, we'll find the rest of the vessel.
The history of the logging industry is full of tales of lumberjacks and lumber barons. But here at the Baker White Pine Mill, it was a family affair.
Is that a doll?
It's a doll breastplate. There's playtime happening here, even in these landscapes where big extractive industry is happening. There's also people at play, and that's really fun to see.
There's a boot.
A little enamelware bottle artifact.
This was part of the large sawmill itself.
Archaeological investigations at the Baker White Pine Mill highlighted unexpected aspects of this former community deep in the woods.
The lumber industry is so traditionally associated with men. You think lumberjacks, it's a whole identity, flannel, all the things. But what we see archaeologically here is so much more for the women. You would expect to see files and lard pails and these more like utilitarian enamelware bowls at a lumber site. And we have that. But we also have porcelain and corset stays and toys. We know during this era in the lumber industry, there's a shift from bunkhouses with just men living there to families being invited to come with them. That puts these companies off the hook for feeding, cleaning, doing all the laundry and all the care for these men because now the women are doing it. And so they become a critical part of this industry without being acknowledged, without being compensated. It's not in the history books.
And there's something immutable about the archaeological record. It's solid, it's evidence that was directly left behind by people, and it's up to us to interpret it. It tells a truth that's a very deep truth.
There's so many cool things you can interpret from here too, like the glass lamp, lighting the home to read or to entertain your friends, all that life outside of the work, just thinking about people's domestic lives and what that looked like after hours.
That lamp glass that we found was milk glass. It's a decorative choice. They're creating a vibe.
I have milk glass.
Yeah! Ooh la la. Garter clip. It's hot and they're having like full sleeves and we're finding corsets. Who wants to wear a corset when it's 100 degrees?
Can't imagine wearing silk stockings and things and garters and corset.
Archaeology really helps us get some insight into what it was to be a woman in this environment. You know, we find washboards and stuff for mending clothes, but we also are seeing these really decorative tablewares. Lumber mills are also homes. And guess who makes them that way? It's no longer the traditional idea of these lumberjacks in the woods. This is a family community that's all working together towards this common goal to cut trees and turn them into things.
This information is going to fill a gap in our understanding of what life was like for these families that lived at these types of sites.
Look at all that.
Most people don't realize that one of the largest collections of traditional Chinese medicine in the world is right here in rural Eastern Oregon. But what's truly remarkable is not that it exists, but that it survived.
This is unique. Little pieces of different apothecaries exist in Boise and Los Angeles, but this is like, I was thinking about it like almost like Tutankhamun's tomb, right? But I mean, it's even better than a tomb because someone lived here.
Kam Wah Chung was a home, general store, community center, and medical clinic where owner Ing He served as a beloved doctor to the residents of the region.
He was only about 20. He's a young man. Imagine he didn't intend to stay. During this period between 1882 and 1943, laws restricted the immigration of Chinese people to the United States. Places like Kam Wah Chung were all the more necessary. Kam Wah Chung is certainly a place where you can go to get your medicinal herbs, Chinese groceries, but it's also just a place to come be in community with one another and making it possible for people to have their full lives here.
We have spent a decade working at the Kam Wah Chung State Heritage Site, which is home to the John Day Chinatown. It was established in 1880s and it survived up until the 1940s, which is not common for Chinese American sites.
I remember when we were digging that site, it seemed like you guys were like pulling out an entire bottling plant's worth of glass bottles out of it.
I think in 2022, from one area, we recovered over 50 pounds of glass. Ing He repurposed bottles for his medicinal preparations, and he would figure out what's wrong with you, come up with a preparation that was best suited, and then he would send you home with it in a recycled Coke bottle or something like this.
People have eventually kind of figured out like, oh, I have all these old bottles, I don't know what to do with. Maybe Doc Hay will use them.
That's right. This is the first reduce, reuse, recycle. And we have, in addition to concoctions that are being prepared on site from his apothecary, these single dose medicinal vials that would have come in from China. And these would have contained pelletized medicine or liquids in very small doses.
One of the great documents from Kam Wah Chung is this letter where a woman writes, I have a tumor on my neck. Can you shrink it with herbs? Because otherwise I have to go see the doctor and I have such a dread of the knife. They liked that his procedures were non-invasive. There was a sort of familiarity with herbal remedies. It was a time when gynecological science was all about surgery.
You have a headache, here's a hysterectomy.
Exactly. People say, how did these Chinese doctors ever serve non-Chinese patients? Most of them lived almost all their adult lives in the United States. They were just normal people. You know, normal people change and absorb new habits and cultural norms. And I hope that people see folks like Ing He as actual people, you know, and not just exotic. He belonged here, he belonged to this community.